With the grand final holiday as a stimulus, I decided to do a 4-day hunt along the Goulburn River because the rut was still on in that area. I spent time studying an A3 size colour enlarged map of the area I intended to hunt. I decided that I would hunt the ridges and gully heads. My reason for this was the season was warming up, with warm and cool spots higher up with good feed and cool breezes, along with the fact that I knew stags frequented the area. The gully area where I had hunted before was one of those. I arrived on Thursday at 3 p.m. and camped on a four-wheel drive track on the ridge. I set off and hunted down from the ridge so as not to disturb the other side that I wanted to hunt on the Friday. I was up before dawn, but I didn't leave camp until 6:30. When I got 150 metres down, I realised I was some distance from the area I wanted to hunt. It was a nice gully head. As I turned left and worked my way towards the selected area, visibility was mostly 20 to 30 metres, at times 50, but usually fairly short. The ground was noisy and my plan was to hunt slow and quiet all day, with no desire to cover a large amount of ground. To hunt large areas, you have to move along, which is not conducive to gaining an advantage over sambar stags. I've done that too much. I had not gone far at all when I saw the leaves on a eucalypt sapling 40 metres above me being disturbed. I thought it was birds causing the movement. It continued a couple more times and then stopped for a length of time. Then it commenced again, but more vigorously, which told me it had to be a stag hammering it from lower down. Doesn't the body come alive when you get that close to a sambar stag? I couldn't see the animal at all, and I wanted to move around to get a look at him. Then I thought better of it and crawled a few metres up the steep side, but still caught no sight of him. I waited and waited, what seemed like a long time, and I was well concealed and he had no idea I was there. I wound the scope to 5 and continued to scan the area, but there was no sign of him. Then, out of nowhere, he showed up at 25 metres away, directly ahead of me, hooking into some scrub, and even at that distance, I could not set eyes on him. After a short time, I saw his body, which was standing uphill. His shoulders right back to his rump was a ginger colour and clearly in view, and that was my first view of him. Still, I couldn't get a look at his head, neck and chest, but I saw a small section of antler and reckoned he was about 15 inches in length, so I wasn't keen to take him. I then spotted more antler and decided to take him for meat more than anything else. It was now that I realised I had an empty breech. What a time to be working that bolt. At 25 metres, the 150 grain core locked from the 270 Winchester was sent into what I believed was his chest area. He immediately lunged to his right. I waited motionless for 20 to 30 minutes to present no noise or movement to give him time. There was no breeze, but without doubt the air was gently rising with the warm sun. My scent was rising almost vertically, as scent cannot travel against or across moving air. I was safe from detection. While sitting there, I started to question things because at no time could I see any of his vitals. But there was no doubt about my estimation of where his chest was. It was just a matter of what path the bullet followed and how much vitals it went through. I got up and made my way up to where he was standing. It was difficult to locate, and I thought I must have gone a bit low. Then I saw him. His body looked small, which confirmed my thinking that he was 2 or 3 years old, and I still couldn't see any antlers. As I drew close, it became clear why I couldn't get a look at his head. He carried a huge ball of vines wrapped around his antlers. This obscured the whole front of him. The body looked small because his head and front legs had crumpled underneath him. He'd only gone 2 or 3 steps, crashed and rolled down the steep hillside and got caught up on a small tree. Once I Once I got the head out from under him, I then realised that he was a ripper head, length, deep tops, long tines. I believe he was about 6 years old. The projectile passed through his neck, smashed several vertebrae, and stopped on the opposite shoulder. He knew nothing. It was an instant death. Years ago, I shot a donkey with a 222 Remington, and it just poleaxed him on the spot. This stag was hit more seriously, but still managed to take 2 determined steps with a smashed neck from the larger cartridge. Where he fell was the worst, steepest place I've ever had to cut up a stag. I tied an antler to a small tree so he wouldn't slide further downhill. It took a total of 2.5 hours to section him up and do the basic caping. Once I'd finished, I looked up to the nearby ridge, deciding what route to take. Everything was so darn steep. As I climbed, I saw more light than I expected, and it was then that I realised it was the track I had been camped on. This stag was only 100 odd metres from the track. I recovered every bit of this animal on the bone, as my son Giles is a butcher. He likes meat on the bone to do his bandsaw cuts. So now, instead of backstraps, I'll be having T-bone venisons for dinner. When it's your time to take a stand of a stag, it's your time, and almost nothing stops it. I had this stag in a 1 hour hunt, and so close to camp. A good reason to be quiet at camp, as any noise would have spooked him. Once I had finally got him up to the Toyota, I was starting to feel it, which doesn't normally happen. I ended up doing 9 trips each way, totaling about 1.5 kilometres over 2 hours. Not bad for a young fella. Whew. Not even a breathalyzer at Knotwood Bridge, which was my first, could dampen my spirits. I got back to Bendigo late Friday arvo and got the tape out, and he went 27.5 long and 27 wide. I've done this for 60 odd years, and the challenge and stimulation is always the same. I love it. Doug Mummery.